There's so many things you can learn from a simple movie. Legacy, love, trust, human character, and more. At the movies.
We are in At the Movies week 2. Week 2 of At the Movies. We are using our favorite films to illustrate some of God's truth. And as we've talked, God has a monopoly on truth. Whatever is true is from God. It doesn't matter if it comes from Christian, non-Christian. It doesn't matter, because what's true is ultimately from God. So we're going to be talking through some of our favorite movies. We have a good one today. But I believe God is creative. I believe God is creative, that when He made the animals, He made a puffer fish. He made a puffer fish that is, it just, when it feels threatened, it just sucks in all this water, blows up like an underwater birthday party balloon when it feels threatened. It has all these spikes on it. He created pronghorn or antelope. He created those, and there was one time when Jen and I were driving through the middle of Wyoming, which is not fun. Like there's 2 hours of, I didn't see another car or human for 2 hours. That's just, we were on the highway, like not purposely avoiding humans. We were just on the highway. So I went to sleep, and I woke up to this pronghorn running next to us, the same speed as us. We were going about 65, 70. It's a fast animal. It was just right next to us, right on the dirt next to us. I woke up to a pronghorn in my window. That was terrifying. God created that. He loved it. He created elephants. You see how, you've seen elephants that are painted. They have paintbrushes and they're painting stuff. I don't know what it means. It doesn't matter. But it's just cool that God gave them a trunk and tusk and just a powerful, majestic being. God created plants. He created the Venus flytrap. It's one of my favorite plants. I don't have any. But I've always just watched it. I'm like, what is it, an animal? Does it have a brain? I don't get how it just gets flies and stuff like that. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But it's so cool. You think about the maple tree. Probably one of the best plants ever made. Because there's maple, and without maple, there'd be no maple and bacon donuts. Like, there's just, God created many, many things for our enjoyment, and He just loved to make them. Jen and I have been to many different places. We lived in the Black Hills in South Dakota. Beautiful place. We got to go snorkeling in some clear lake there. Went to the Badlands, which feels like you're on Mars. It just feels like you're on another planet. We've been to Glacier National Park. We got to go to this lake where you can see it down about 200 feet. It looks like you're like 6 feet above the ground, or above the, what do they call that? Oh well. Under the surface of the water. Yeah, just the ground underneath the water. And it looks like that, but it's like 200 feet down. It's just so clear, it seems like it's right there. I've been to the Bahamas where we were able to go snorkeling with schools of fish and through coral. God created amazing things. God created, and He's very creative. And then He created humans. He created humans and said it was very good. Better than the other stuff He made. He thought that humans were special. Humans have had many amazing feats. They've done many, many things. You look at the Guinness Book of World Records, you think about things that people have done where people can parkour, they can jump off of 3-story buildings and somehow just be fine. I'm like, if I get out of my bed wrong, I'm hurt. You think about that. You think about Usain Bolt, who can run 100 meters in the fastest time under 10 seconds. I'm like, that's pretty fast. And then we just think about all these things that humans can do. If you're ever interested in what humans can do, just look up "People Are Awesome" on YouTube. You won't regret it. But we are created in the image of God. God is very creative. And Jesus was a master storyteller. He was very good at using his words to explain truths, to use stories to help us understand who God is. And the Bible is an amazing book filled with stories of God's love. Imagine if these stories were turned into movies. Imagine following David's life. He's just a young shepherd out in the fields, young shepherd going about his day. And then it cuts to him going to defeat Goliath, and then him becoming king and running away from Saul. Just think about the movie that we could watch. You think about the cinematography and the CGI that could happen if there was a movie about the creation story, it's just black, and then all of a sudden God made everything. He made all these things in 6 days. You see like mountains popping up out of the ground, and you see these valleys and oceans and all these animals and plants and light, and you just think about what a movie that would be, what spectacular movie that would be to watch. You imagine like the prodigal son, the parable of the prodigal son. Imagine watching that. Imagine watching the journey from Saul to Paul, where he goes from persecuting Christians to that Damascus Road experience where he was blinded by the light and he saw God, and he turned from a persecutor to a Christ follower, someone who was an influencer, and became a missionary and spread the gospel all around Asia and the Middle East. How amazing would that be if we could watch that? But Jesus was a master storyteller. God is a creative God. And so that's why we're talking about at the movies. At the movies is just using things that are creative, to use what culture is already telling us, but to bring out biblical truths from them. Because you can pull truth out of whatever. If God says it's true, it's true. But then some of the disciples asked Jesus, they said, "Why do you speak to the people in parables?" I talked about these last week, and I'm just going to go through them real short. He talked to people in parables to fulfill prophecy, to reveal truth, but also to conceal truth. Reveal truth to some people, conceal it to others, depending on how close you were to God. If you understood Jesus, if you understood that, you would be revealed some truth. If you didn't understand, then truth would be concealed. Number 4 is to illustrate truth, how that truth applies to everyday life, to make truth relevant, to captivate attention. Jesus avoided the boring. He was just a great, captivating person that just drew people in. I mean, you think about the feeding of the 5,000, you think about the Sermon on the Mount, people just flocked around him. People wanted to be with him because he captivated their attention. And the last one is to enable retention, because when we put stories and movies and pictures in our heads, we're going to remember that longer than just hearing something. Today we're going to be in the book of Judges. We're going to be in the book of Judges, so if you would open there today, open your Bibles, open your phones. It's not going to be on the screen today on purpose. It's long. It's going to be long in the book of Judges, but it's a great story. And when we talk about these judges in this book, it's not like a legal judge that says you're guilty, not guilty, all that. It's not legal, but it's more a leader, a military leader, kind of somebody who's just in charge of nations and like regions and different tribes and things like that. So we're going to be in Judges chapter 6. So if you open there, or if you just close your eyes and listen and kind of put this picture into your mind, that's up to you. Judges chapter 6, verse 1. The Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and for 7 years he gave them into the hands of the Midianites. Because the power of Midian was so oppressive, the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain clefts, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern peoples invaded the country. They camped on the land and ruined the crops all the way to Gaza, and did not spare a living thing for Israel, neither sheep nor cattle nor donkeys. They came up with their livestock in their tents like swarms of locusts. It was impossible to count them or their camels. They invaded the land to ravage it. Midian so impoverished the Israelites that they cried out to the Lord for help. When the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet who said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians, and I delivered you from the hand of your oppressors. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you live. But you have not listened to me." Verse 11, "Then the angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Mizraite, where his son Giddeon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, 'The Lord is with you, mighty warrior.' 'Pardon me, my Lord,' Gideon replied. 'But if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all the wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, "Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?" But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian.' The Lord turned to him and said, 'Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?' 'Pardon me, my Lord,' Gideon replied, 'but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family.' The Lord answered, 'I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive.' Gideon replied, 'If now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that is really you talking to me. Please do not go away until I come back and bring my offering and set it before you.' And the Lord said, 'I will wait until you return.'" Then just kind of summarize a little bit before we skip down a little bit. Gideon prepared a sacrifice as God had instructed him. And an angel of the Lord started the fire for that sacrifice that night. Then Gideon said, "I have met an angel of the Lord face to face." So he knew this was God. He was understanding that he was meeting with someone of God. So let's skip down to verse 23. "But the Lord said to him, 'Peace, do not be afraid. You are not going to die.' So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it, 'The Lord is Peace.' To this day it stands in Ophrah of the Mizraites. That same night the Lord said to him, 'Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one 7 years old. Tear down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Then build a proper kind of altar to the Lord your God on top of this height. Using the wood of the Asherah pole that you cut down, offer the second bull as a burnt offering.'" It says, using the wood of the Asherah pole that you cut down, use that as something to start the burnt offering. It takes a sacrifice of the old way before we can move forward. That thing that kept the people from God, this Asherah pole, in worshiping God, or worshiping that false god. The thing that kept the people from God became the beginning of the journey back to God. This pole was used for evil, it was used for impaling people on, it was used for many, many sexual things that I'm not even going to talk about in church because I don't want to go there. There's many, many things that were offered to this false god Baal. And that became the sacrifice to the one true God. God will use what used to hold us back to be the fire that started in us, but we have to sacrifice that. We have to get rid of those things that are holding us back and say, God, I'm giving this to you, and He's going to take it and light a fire in us. It takes sacrifices. This is a declaration of not going back to what it was, but moving forward. Verse 27. So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord told him. But because he was afraid of his family and the townspeople, he did it at night rather than in the daytime. In the morning, when the people of the town got up, there was Baal's altar demolished, with the Asherah pole beside it cut down, and the second bull sacrificed on the newly built altar. They asked each other, who did this? When they carefully investigated. It's when they carefully investigated. Not just investigated, but they carefully investigated because they were afraid. They were afraid of Baal. They were afraid of this made-up God, this false God. They carefully investigated in case it was, maybe it's something as Baal did. I don't want to anger Baal, but they carefully investigated. Verse 29, they were told Gideon, son of Joash, did it. The people of the town demanded of Joash, bring out your son. He must die because he has broken down Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. But Joash replied to the hostile crowd around him, are you going to plead Baal's cause? Are you trying to save him? Whoever fights for him shall be put to death by morning. If Baal is really a god, he can defend himself when someone breaks down his altar. So because Gideon broke down Baal's altar, they gave him the name Jerubbaal that day, meaning let Baal contend with him. Verse 33. Now all the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern peoples joined forces and crossed over the Jordan and camped in the valley of Jezreel. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, summoning the Israelites to follow him. He sent messengers throughout Manasseh, calling them to arms, and also into Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, these other tribes that were close to him, so that they too went up to meet them. Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have promised, look, I will place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece and all the ground is dry, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you said. And that is what happened. Gideon rose early the next day, he squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew, a bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, do not be angry with me. Let me just make one more request. Allow me one more test with the fleece, but this time make the fleece dry and let the ground be covered with dew. That night God did so. Only the fleece was dry, all the ground was covered with dew. Early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all his men camped at the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, you have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel would boast against me. My own strength has saved me, they would say. Now announce to the army, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead. So 22,000 men left, while 10,000 remained. But the Lord said to Gideon, there's still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will thin them out for you there. If I say, this one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say, this one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord told him, separate those who lap the water with their tongues, as a dog laps from those who kneel down to drink. 300 of them drank from cupped hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept the 300 who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. Now the camp of Midian lay below him in the valley. During that night the Lord said to Gideon, get up, go down against the camp, because I am going to give it into your hands. If you're afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah and listen to what they are saying. Afterward, you will be encouraged to attack the camp. So he and Purah, his servant, went down to the outposts of the camp. The Midianites, the Amalekites, and all the other eastern peoples settled in the valley, thick as locusts. Their camels can no more be counted than the sand on the seashore. Gideon arrived just as a man was telling a friend his dream. I had a dream, he was saying. A round loaf of barley came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. His friend responded, this can be nothing other than the sword of Giddeon, son of Joash, the Israelite. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands. When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed down and worshipped. He returned to the camp of Israel, called out, get up. The Lord has given the Midianite camp into your hands. Dividing the 300 men into 3 companies, he placed trumpets and empty jars inside the hands of all of them, with the torches inside. Watch me, he told them. Follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all who are with me blow our trumpets, then from all around the camp blow yours and shout, for the Lord and for Giddeon, which I always thought was funny, for the Lord and also me. Make sure I'm involved in that. But before we go further into the story, I'm going to set up what we're going to watch. We're going to talk about the best sport today. We're going to talk about the best sport on the 4th of July, actually the most American sport, I believe. It's fun to watch in person, fun to watch on TV, and this is one that Jen will actually watch with me. So that's nice, because usually other ones she's like, oh, you see that person in the crowd? Like, no, I'm watching the game. She's like, oh, you see that person's shoes? Like, still watching the game. But this one, she pays attention to and actually understands and gets the sport. And the sport I am talking about is hockey. I know it's Canadian, but on this American Day. Oh well. On this Independence Day, we are talking about hockey. We are talking about my favorite sport, which I believe is the toughest sport to play. Because people put steak knives on the bottom of their boots and decide that they're going to go chase a frozen rubber circle with a stick, going up to 30 miles an hour, hitting each other. The fights, it seems like Home Improvement, like when Tim Taylor starts grunting, oh. Just that manly, I love hockey. Love hockey. But back centuries ago, many centuries ago, there was a time known as the 1980s. Time known as the 1980s. No, it was back before my time. But back before the 1980s, the Soviet hockey team won gold in 1956 and 64, 68, 72, 76. They were the undisputed hockey powerhouse of the world. Every single team that played them lost to them. Every single thing that happened, they lost. And the U.S. used the best talent that they could find. They used the professionals, the people in NHL, and all the other things before that. But no team was a match for Soviet hockey. Coach Herb Brooks, this is a true story that they made into a movie. He changed up his strategy. And he decided that it wasn't the best. He didn't need the best, but he needed the right fit. He needed the people that were going to be willing, obedient, and be the right fit. So before we watch this clip, this is what's going on. The team had gone through a lot of difficulties. They're trying to get up. They're trying to train this whole team in like 6 or 7 months. They're trying to get this team together and playing like a team from all different backgrounds. And so they finally get into the game before the gold medal round where they face Russia, where they had lost a couple weeks before. They had lost. It was a blowout to Russia. Sorry, Soviets. I'm used to Russia. Lost to the Soviets. And so it was right before the game before they go to the gold medal game, that Coach Herb Brooks gives them this speech before they go play.
Great moments are born in great opportunity. And that's what you have here tonight. That's what you earned here tonight. One game. If we played them 10 times, they might win 9. But not this game. Not tonight. Tonight, we skate them. Tonight, we stay with them. And we shut them down because we can. Tonight, we are the greatest hockey team in the world. You were born to be hockey players. Every one of you. And you were meant to be here tonight. This is your time. Their time is done. It's over. I'm sick and tired of hearing about what a great hockey team the Soviets have. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. Judges 7, chapter 19. Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, just after they had changed the guard. They blew their trumpets and broke the jars that were in their hands. The three companies blew their trumpets and smashed the jars, grasping the torches in their left hand and holding in their right hands the trumpets they were to blow. They shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." While each man held his position around the camp, all the Midianites ran, crying out as they fled. When the 300 trumpets sounded, the Lord caused the men throughout the camp to turn on each other with their sword. God didn't need the 32,000. God didn't need the 10,000. God needed the 300 willing, obedient soldiers. Because there's always going to be great opportunities. There's always going to be the great opportunity in front of us, but the great moments are when we take that stand, when we take that charge and we go and we do something. God doesn't need the best, but He needs the willing. He needs the people that are crazy, the people that just want to be obedient and be with God so that they can help other people know Him. We have a great opportunity before us, a city that needs hope. I know God is going to ask you to do crazy things that are outside of your comfort zone that you've never done. I remember I told God when I was in middle school, I was like, God, I'm never going to speak for a living. And what am I doing now? I told God a lot of things, and He said, I'm going to make you more than what you think you can be. God is going to ask our church to do crazy things. We're going to do things that have never been tried. We're going to do things that people have never done successfully. I know that God is calling us to different things, that we can be a church, we can be a force in this community that is helping people know Him and to know hope. In the end of this movie, the U.S. beats the Soviets 4-3. Went on to win gold against Finland, but before that game, right after this speech, as the hockey team was walking out, there was this wall of letters, telegrams, all this mail that people had sent from all over the country. It's like 8 feet tall. It looks like it could be like 30 feet wide, just filled with letters of all these people encouraging them. It reminded me of the great cloud of witnesses in Hebrews 12. That those who have gone before, who have already finished their race, already played their game, already did what they were supposed to do. I believe they would say it was difficult, but it was worth it. I didn't understand, but it was worth it. I tried things I never thought I would do, but it was worth it. We'll only have great moments if we focus on the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, Jesus. There are always great opportunities, but not many who take the step of faith like the 300. These 300 crazy men that lap the water like dogs. These crazy people that against all odds, they took on the Midianites and won. These 300 took out this place of Midian where the camels were as thick as the sand on the seashore, and the people were as thick as locusts that you just couldn't see through it. That these 300 took out this. And I don't know about you, but if you saw a battle, and you're thinking about a battle, you're thinking about a war, if there was a battle or war that we're reading about, and these people shouted, blew their trumpets, broke pots, like those people are crazy. They're gonna die. But with God, when He says to do something, that He's already gone before us. Today, on this Independence Day, we celebrate freedom as Americans, but we get to celebrate the freedom that God has given us even more. And if we aren't helping others find freedom, if we aren't helping others find freedom in God, we haven't focused on what Jesus is calling us to do, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. We are not actually following God if we haven't gone further. If we haven't gone out. It may not seem fun to try new things. I don't like trying new things. I don't like trying new things. I'll do it. I'll do things that God has told me to do. I personally do not like trying new things, but I will if God has told me to do it. But as Paul wrote, he says, be all things to all people. That we're there for people in any way that we can be. We don't have to be the best at it, but we have to be what they need. What they need is God. What they need is a listening ear. What they need is somebody to talk to them. What they need is someone who's just going to be there with them. God isn't asking us to be the best. He's asking us to be the right person that hears God's voice, that's obedient and willing to go that extra step. If we watch this movie, if we looked at history, Soviet hockey would have kept winning had somebody not gone and changed up their whole strategy. Said, no, we don't need the professionals. No, we don't need the talent. We need the right people to go and do this. We don't see revival until our minds, until our thoughts, until our focus is on Jesus. And Dover doesn't heal until we go to them. Dover doesn't get freedom until we're unleashing hope, until we're going out and helping other people. Even if it seems bleak, even if it seems like the odds are stacked against us, even if it seems like there's a big opponent before us, there's a lot of evil out there, but God has already given us the victory. He repeated this multiple times throughout the Old Testament where he's telling Abraham and Moses and Joshua that every step you take will be yours. Every place you put your foot, the land will be yours. That God has already gone before us. We just have to be obedient and go. And it says, in Matthew, it says, the gates of hell cannot stand. Hell is afraid of what the power that God has given us, the power of God. Hell is afraid of that power that we have been given. Today, we are the greatest force in the world. You were born to be used by God. Every one of you. You were meant to be here. This is our time. This is our time as the church. Because their time is done. The time of evil, the time of people taking advantage of other people is over. Hell doesn't get the final say of who people are, but Jesus has already gone and taken that step, and we just have to be obedient to go to them. And then as Coach Herb Brooks, he says, now go out there and take it. It's already been given to us. That we just have to be obedient to take that step. That everywhere we place our feet, that God has already gone before us in that conversation. That He has already been working on people. That He is already there. We just have to be obedient to be the hands and feet of Christ. And I wasn't planning on saying this the first service, but I feel like I need to say it again. There was a story I told at prayer meeting a couple weeks ago where my dad went to this place, Willow Creek Community Church. It's in Barrington Heights, Illinois. It's a large mega church outside of Chicago. And my dad was just going to visit with a couple other friends. They just wanted to see what the church was like and just gain ministry knowledge from them, see what they're doing. And they were supposed to have a tour guide to give them a tour of the church and help them answer questions, all that fun stuff. So they were there, and the tour guide never showed up. And after a while, they got lunch, and they just probably looked lost. Somebody came up to them and said, you guys need something? You kind of look lost. Can I help you? And they're like, well, we're supposed to have our tour guide, and he didn't show up, so we're just kind of waiting around to see what we should do. He goes, I'll give you a tour. And so he starts giving them a great tour. I heard it was a really good tour. I wasn't there. This is like 25 years ago. Gave him a tour, showed him the back room, showed him all the cool things that the church is doing. And everybody thought he was on staff. Everybody thought he was a pastor or something. Somebody said, what do you do here? He goes, well, you see that stand that the pastor preaches from? Right before he speaks, I put it up on the stage. And when he's done, I put it back down. Everybody's like, why would you do that? He says, I am 2 hands and a willing heart. That doesn't matter if he's a pastor, it doesn't matter if he is the person in the spotlight, but he is the person that is willing to go, willing to be whatever is needed. If that's to put a stand on stage, he's going to do that. If that's to give a tour when he's not even allowed to give tours, we found out, but he gave a tour because he wanted to help. That he was 2 hands and a willing heart. Now today is our time. Today is our time. We're having a parade today. We are going back into community. Today is our time to start to go back out into the community and take what is God's and give people back to God. So I believe there's an announcement, and then we'll come back and pray after that. So there's an announcement from Sherry, is what I've been told. Sherry. Hi, it's for you.
Okay, sorry. Speaker's not working out here.
That's fine.
So good morning, everybody. I want to thank everyone for all the generous gifts you've provided to the Munsels. They've been here a couple months and finally getting settled in our regular parsonage, and this is going to be a huge blessing to them. We're grateful to have them here and wanted to be able to present it to them. We've got a couple people that also got you some gifts so that you can fill your freezer. So thank you guys so much. We're so grateful, like I said, and enjoy. Lots of good stuff here for you girls.
Thank you everybody so much for all the food. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the candy you brought in for the parsonage, for the parade. Yeah, all that candy is going to the parsonage for the parade. So we're excited to be here. We're excited to we're here and we're ready to go to work. So I'm going to pray and then we can head out. So God, we thank you for this time, this day that you have put us here. God, that you have already gone before, that, God, we're going to see a victory. We're going to see people come to know you. We're going to see marriages that are mended. We're going to see drug addictions broken. We're going to see things that we never thought possible in our human perspective. But God, this is something that you are always doing. So God, I pray that you would give us boldness. I pray that you would give us your words, your listening ear, to say to people. Help us to not say anything when we need to listen. God, help us to be listening to them with one ear and listening to you with one ear. God, I pray that we go out and take it, because this world will not have revival until we take that step. God, you've already given it to us. Help us to be willing, obedient people, 2 hands and a willing heart. So God, I pray that you would bless this church beyond our wildest dreams, that we would be able to go out and be strong for you. Pray these things in your name. Amen. Great to have you. Have a great Independence Day. If you want to come see us in the parade, if you want to be in the parade, if you anything like that, let us know. Or if you are just going to show up to the parade, just give us a wave. We would love to see you, say hi, and pass out some candy. Maybe you can get some of that candy back you brought in. So, all right. Thank you. Have a good week.